All right. So moving on to slide 8, global health and environment. Now this is kind of interesting because in global health and environment, climate change increases UV exposure, which raises melanoma risk and putting stress on healthcare system. Now, people who work at the healthcare system are gonna be in stress. You gotta take that in account. And also because it affects mental and community wellness by increasing anxiety about outdoor safety, by increasing anxiety again, and then changing how communities plan activities, which basically just mean that let's say I wanted to go to the beach, but now I'm not gonna go to the beach anymore because I realize the fact that global warming is making me get a disease or skin cancer, and that can give me stress a lot, and that can also give me anxiety because I'm scared of going outside. And my personal reflection is that hotter summers and stronger UV warnings have made my community more careful about being outside and more focused on sun protection. So that's pretty much it. All right. So now we'll be talking about cells and environment. All right. So studying cells helps us understand how environmental stress, especially ultraviolet radiation, damages our DNA and interferes with normal cellular function. UV exposure increases the risk of mutations in melanocytes by a lot, which is basically how melanoma begins. Now, learning about cellular responses helps scientists create better strategies to help protect our body. Healthy habits such as eating properly and sleeping enough strengthen cellular resilience and improve the body's ability to repair DNA damage. Technologies like ultra black dermoscopy or ultra black surfaces, which is just a fancy word, support early detection by identifying changes in melanocyte behavior before the damage becomes even more serious and even life threatening. Together, cellular science, preventive habits, and sensitive imaging create multiple layers of protection against melanoma. And now we'll be moving on to how the technology works. Ultra black surfaces work by absorbing almost all incoming lights and preventing reflections inside an imaging device. They absorb again 99 and 99.9% of the light that enters. That's a lot, meaning almost nothing reflects back. The microstructure of the material traps incoming light, forces repeated internal interactions, and converts the energy into heat. This removes stray light and prevents scattering inside the device. The result is an image with extremely high contrast because the detector only receives light coming directly from the skin, so not from the surface of the device. This clarity makes it easier to see tiny color variations, early pigment changes, and irregular borders that are important for melanoma detection. So this is basically just the ultimate device to detect the skin cancer. Now, you may be asking, what's the optics concept for how the technology works? So, the absorption of electromagnetic radiation means that incoming light is taken in by the material instead of bouncing off its surface. In melanoma imaging, this is extremely useful. When the material's microsculpture designed to trap light, almost no reflection occurs. Instead, the absorbed light is converted into heat or dissipated internally. This greatly reduces glare and surface shine, allowing the image device to capture a clean, high contrast view of your skin or the skin. By minimizing reflection, the system can detect small or subtle differences in pigmentation, lesion borders, and mainly the structural patterns that would normally be washed out by scattered light. This enhanced clarity, again, helps clinicians identify melanoma earlier and more accurately because the true color and depth of the lesion become way more visible than with scattered light. And that's my optics concept. Now, we're here at slide 10. The risks, the cost, the coverage, environmental impact, negative effects, all of it. Ultraviolet imaging itself is non-invasive and does not expose patients to radiation. However, diagnostic risks still exist a lot actually. A false positive can lead to unnecessary biopsies and stress, while a false negative can delay a diagnosis that needs urgent treatment, like right now. Research you mentioned shows misdiagnosis rates around 5 to 10% depending on the type of lesion and the experience of the clinician or the doctor. Sorry, my pronunciation is really bad today. Another issue is financial access. These imaging systems are not usually covered by OHIP, and and private high contrast exams can range from roughly 100 to 150 to $800 depending on the clinic, based on how similar diagnostic tools have been handled. Ultra black imaging should eventually be considered for public tools. Sorry, not tools, but coverage for public coverage, because early detection lowers long-term treatment costs. Environmentally, the technology has a small impact because it does not use radiation and relies mainly on passive absorption materials. Early detection may also reduce the need for intensive treatment or repeated hospital visits, while indirectly lowers resource use and benefits the environment. So these are some evidence from lesson 4. Ultra black imaging is a safe diagnostic method because it is completely non-invasive and does not expose patients to radiation, but diagnostic limitations still exist. Studies on dermoscopic report 5 to 10% misdiagnosis rates and research from the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology shows that early melanomas are missed about 9% of the time with standard imaging, while benign lesions may be mistaken for cancer and lead to unnecessary biopsies. Access, though, is a whole other issue, as high contrast private skin imaging in Ontario typically costs around $150 to $800 and is rarely covered by OHIP, which creates financial barriers despite evidence from Canadian dermatology organizations that delayed diagnosis greatly increases long-term treatment costs. Ultra black imaging also has a small environmental footprint because it uses passive light absorbing materials rather than huge radiation. And early detection reduces the need for energy intensive treatments such as PET scans, chemotherapy, or multiple surgeries. Studies on melanoma care show that early stage melanoma uses 50 to 75% fewer medical resources, meaning that improving early detection with ultra black imaging benefits patients, the healthcare system, and the environment as well. So for slide 11, here's my recommendation and effectiveness. My recommendation is to use ultra black surface imaging for early melanoma detection. Once it has been properly validated for clinical practice, research, research you need to referred research you referred to suggests that the stronger contrast improves the detection of small pigment changes and increases diagnostic accuracy by about 15 to 20% compared to normal visual inspection. This improvement matters because early stage melanoma has much better outcomes than later stages. Ultra black imaging supports physical wellness by improving early diagnosis, mental wellness by reducing uncertainty around unclear lesions, and environmental wellness by helping avoid energy intensive treatments. Working on this project showed me how prevention and technology work together to improve health. It also made me realize that technology is only effective when it's accessible to everyone.